Hey guys, today we're making Not Granny's Crochet Cardi. It's a very simple and fun pattern. I love it. I hope you guys love it too. Let's just jump right into the pattern. So for Not Granny's Cardi, you would need approximately 1,000 to 1,200 yards of worsted weight yarn. Today I will be using Hobby Lobby's Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek yarn in the color Tobacco, and also just a cream yarn I did already have in my stash. You also want to be sure you have a K or 6.5 millimeter hook, a needle to weave in those ends, a pair of scissors, and also a stitch marker of some sort. I'm probably going to use some scrap yarn. All right, and once you have that, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we're going to start by making our chain. So we're going to start with our slip knot. Now I am making a 50-inch bust or a 2X size cardigan. If you want to know more about your size, or if you're making a different size than me, I'm going to link the written pattern in the description box. It is free. If you do want the ad-free version, there's a link there as well for you to purchase that. But just follow along with me once you get your chain and we can get going. Like I said, I'm going to make a chain of 92. Now, when you're making your chain, you do want to be sure it is fairly loose. You do not want a tight chain. A tight chain in the end is going to result in your cardigan just not laying quite right. So you do want to be sure you're chaining fairly loosely. Not extremely loose. You don't want it to be, gaping, but you do want it to be loose enough where it's really easy to come back and do your half double crochets in a moment. That'll ensure that the cardigan fits correctly. So I'm going to continue with my chain. I'm going to chain 92 and I'll be right back to start the first row. All right, so I've got my chain of 92 and I'm ready to start my first row. So what we're going to do is to go into the second chain from the hook, and we're going to do a half double crochet. So 1, 2. If you're unfamiliar with the half double crochet, I will show you really quickly. You're going to yarn over, go into that second chain from the hook, yarn over again, pull through. You have 3 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through all 3. Show you again slowly here. All right, and you want to half double crochet across the entire row. I started with a chain of 92, so I am going to have 91 half double crochet by the end of the row. So I'm going to keep going all the way down my chain, and I will meet you guys once I am finished. Okay, so I'm coming up on my last few stitches of this row. I'm going to finish this up. All right. I'm going to chain 2 and turn my work. Of course, if you are right-handed, you'll be working from right to left. For my lefties, we work from left to right. All right, so we're on the second row. For this row, very similar, we're just gonna half double crochet across the row again. So the chain 2 does not count as a stitch, so do not count that in your stitches, and you're gonna go right into the very first stitch here with a half double crochet. And you're just going to continue along the row. So be sure that you do have the same exact number of stitches as you did the first time. Again, I did a 92, I chained 92, and so I should have 91 half double crochet on the first row, and I have to make sure my second row has the same number. So I am going to do this row, and then we're going to add some color. All right, so I'm coming up on my last few stitches of this row, and on the very last stitch we're going to change to the main color of your cardigan. So I'm only going to do half of my half double crochet, so I'm going to stop when I have the 3 loops on the hook, and I'm going to get my second color, or my main color I should say, and I'm going to add that in. So I'm going to loop that over. And you're going to pull that through to change the color. I tighten that up a little bit. Leave that, and you're going to weave that in later. And you're going to chain 3 and turn your work. All right, so I'm going to get this accent color out of the way right now. Just going to, if I can get my scissors to cut. Left-handed girl living in a right-handed world. All right, so we have this, and we're going to turn our work, tighten all of that up, and you're going to weave all of this in at the end, so do not worry. Now that we have chain 3, the next row is where we're going to start our actual granny stripe. So chain 3 does count as a stitch for this row. You want to work another double crochet into that same stitch. Double crochet, you're going to yarn over, insert into your stitch, yarn over again, pull through. You should have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through the next 2. And that is a double crochet. And so for that one, that's it for that. You're going to skip 2 stitches, and you're going to go into the third one, and you're going to do a double crochet cluster or work 3 double crochets. So you don't chain or anything, just skip 2 stitches, and you want to work 3 double crochet into that next stitch. Okay, so that's your first full cluster. This does not count as a cluster because it is not 3 double crochet. So keep that in mind when you're doing your count at the end. Right, so next you do want to do the same thing. You want to skip 2 stitches, and you're going to put 3 double crochet or double crochet cluster into that third stitch. So you want to continue that all the way down your row until you get to your last 3 stitches. All right, so I've done my double crochet clusters all the way down the row, and now I'm at my last 3 stitches. So all we're going to do, we're still going to skip 2 stitches. We're going to do 2 double crochet into the very last stitch, so that way it is even with the beginning. Right, so you should have something that looks sort of like this. Right? Okay, so now you want to go ahead, chain 3. Chain 3, and turn your work. Right? Got a little tangled up here. All right, so now for the 4th row, what you're going to do, chain 3, that still counts as a double crochet, and you're going to go into this first space right here, and you're going to do a double crochet cluster. So that's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, and 3 double crochet. All right, so you skip all 3 of these, so skip this entire double crochet cluster. You're going to go right into this next space here, and you're going to do another double crochet cluster. I'm sure you can see where this is headed. So all the way down the row, you're going to go into each space between each of the double crochet clusters. You're going to continue this all the way down until you've worked every space with double crochet clusters. Okay, so I've worked each space along the row. You should have something like this, and I'm at the last little bit of the row. So we're going to go into that last double crochet. which is your turning chain that counts as a double crochet. And a lot of people work into the third chain on their double crochets. I like to work into the second simply because I think it makes a straighter edge, but it's your preference. Just work into that chain however you like. All right. So you can see, like I said, it makes a straighter edge for me. Going to the third chain leaves a bump that I don't quite like. So I always go into the second chain from the hook, or not from the hook, but the second chain in the turning chain. All right. So we're going to go ahead and chain up 3 for row 5 and turn. All right, and row 5 is very similar to the other rows, but has some little differences. All right, so if you notice, the first row had 2 stitches in the first stitch. Second row started off with 1. So for row 5, we're starting off with 2. So this counts as a stitch. We're going to do another double crochet in that same stitch. And now this is where it gets familiar. You're going to skip the entire cluster and you're going to go into this space here and work a double crochet cluster. Same thing, you're going to skip this entire cluster. You're going to go into this next space here with a double crochet cluster. Okay, and you're going to continue this across the row, and I'll be back to show you how to finish the row off. All right, so I am on my last cluster of the row. And to end row 5, we're going to skip this entire last cluster. We're going to do 2 double crochet into that last double crochet. But on the second double crochet, we are going to change color. So you only want to finish half of the double crochet. Then we're going to change color. So you're going to go back to your accent color, loop it over, kind of pull it through, tighten that up a bit, and you're going to chain 2. It's going to start row 6, turn your work. I like to have the other color out of the way, so I'm going to cut. See how much simpler it is when I do things with my left hand. All right, so now we're going to do a half double crochet row. Remember that that chain 2 does not count as a stitch. Yarn over, yarn over, go in, and you're going to half double crochet all the way down the row. All right, so I am at my last half double crochet, and I've already cut my yarn off because, you know, I don't like them to be in the way. I'm going to do that, and we're going to change color back to the main color. Pull that through, tighten everything up. I'm going to chain 3, get ready to do a double crochet, turn our work. Remember that does count as a double crochet. And we're basically doing row 3 over again. So it'll be the same exact thing. You want to do another double crochet in the same stitch. Skip 2 stitches. In that third stitch, you want to do a cluster. skip 2 stitches, cluster, skip 2 stitches, and cluster. And you want to continue that all the way across the row. All right, so we're back with our last 3 stitches here. You're going to skip 2 stitches, and you're going to put 2 double crochet in the last stitch, but we are doing a color change, remember that. So we're going to change back to the accent color, chain 2, turn your work, then you're going to half double crochet along the row. This does not count as a stitch, and there's going to be a color change in the last stitch. So I think you guys should have a hang of the half double crochet. So I'm going to go through mine and I'll be right back. All right, so I'm at the end of this row and I'm in my last 2 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead, half double crochet, and halfway finished the last half double crochet. It's time for yet another color change. So I'm going to change back to my main color, chain 3, and turn my work. All right, so the next few rows are exactly the same as rows 3, 4, and 5. So you're going to skip 2 stitches and do a cluster, skip 2 stitches and do a cluster, and continue doing that along the row. Like I said, the next 3 rows are the same as rows 3, 4, and 5. So if you do need to rewind, feel free to do so. Okay, so here I am at the end of row 9. I'm at my last 3 stitches. We're going to skip 2 stitches and do 2 double crochet into the last stitch. We're going to chain up 3 and turn your work. All right, so this is really just going to be a repeat of rows 3 through 8. So this was the same as row 3, so the next row is going to be exact same as row 4. So row 10, we're going to chain up 3. That counts as a double crochet. We're going to skip the next stitch. You're going to do a double crochet cluster in this first space here. So it's just the same thing that we did before. Going to skip the next cluster and go into the next space with a double crochet cluster. And you're going to continue that across the row. I'm going to finish this row, and then I'm also going to work my next row as well. So again, it is a repeat. So for the next row, you're going to chain up 3. You're going to work 1 more double crochet into that exact same stitch, skip the next cluster, and then double crochet cluster into the next space. All right, so I am at the end of row 11, and again, it's just a repeat. I've worked my last space. I'm going to do 2 double crochet into the last stitch. And in the very last stitch, you know that we are going to change color. Like I said, it is a repeat. So we're going to change color. I'm going to chain up 2, turn your work. You're going to half double crochet all the way across the row. And just so you can get a clear picture of what we're doing here, this is a repeat of the same thing that we did here. So this is where we are. So we're going to do a half double crochet row. You're going to repeat row 3. So row 3 again is working 2 double crochet into the first stitch, skipping 2 stitches and doing a cluster into that third stitch, skip 2 stitches, a cluster all the way across the row, ending in 2 double crochet into the very last stitch of the row, and then changing color and doing another half double crochet row. So that's essentially what we're going to do. Again, a half double crochet row, this is where we are now. Repeat row 3 and do another half double crochet row in the other color. Remember to change color on the next row just so you can keep your pattern going. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you back here. Tell you what to do next. All right, so here I am at the end of my row 14. I'm going to do half of my half double crochet. I'm going to change back to my main color. And we're going to be working with the main color for a while. So you can feel free to cut off and set your accent color off to the side. You're going to chain up 3 and turn your work. And if you've noticed with this pattern, after every half double crochet row, we're basically just doing a row 3 repeat, which one more time is a chain 3, double crochet in that same exact stitch, skip 2 stitches, cluster in the next stitch, all the way across the row. Once you get to the last 3 stitches of the row, you are going to skip 2 stitches and work 2 double crochet stitches in the last stitch. All right, so here I am at the end of row 15. I'm going to skip 2 stitches and going to work 2 double crochet into the very last stitch. Okay, I'm going to chain up 3 and turn my work. So let's talk about what's going to happen for the next few rows. The next few rows are going to be a repeat of row 4 and 5, and you're going to continue working row 4 and 5 until you get to row 35. Now again, I am making a 50-inch bust or a 2X cardigan. You do want to check the free written pattern again. The link is in the description to see how many rows you would need to complete your back panel. So again, it's going to be a repeat of row 4 and 5. So just a quick review. This is going to be a row 4 repeat, chain up 3, skip the 2 stitches here, cluster into the next space, skip the next cluster, go into this space here with a double crochet cluster. You're going to do that across the row and put 1 double crochet into the very last stitch. Just a review for row 5, you're going to chain up 3, work another double crochet in that same exact stitch. You're going to skip the next double crochet cluster and double crochet cluster in that next space. You're going to continue that all along the row, and you're going to put 2 double crochet into the very last stitch. I am going to keep working until I get to that point, and I'll meet you back to show you how to finish up the back panel. All right, so I finished my row 35. I changed color in my very last stitch back to the accent color because the next row is going to be another row of half double crochet. This side of the panel, you want it to match the other side of the panel exactly. So just take a look at the other side and they'll kind of give you an idea of where we're going here. So like I said, we're going to do a half double crochet row. And then next, you're going to change color in the very last stitch because we're going to do a row 3 repeat, followed by another row of half double crochets. So again, half double crochet, row 3 repeat, another row of half double crochet. I'm going to do mine and then meet you back. Okay, I am back and I finished my second half double crochet row. I've changed color in the very last stitch and chained up 3. And we're going to prepare for a row 3 repeat, which is a chain 3, double crochet in that same exact stitch, skip 2 stitches, cluster in that 3rd stitch, and across the row you skip 2 stitches, cluster in that 3rd stitch. Once you reach the last 3 stitches of the row, you do want to skip 2 and work 2 double crochet into that very last stitch. Once we finish this row, we are going to work a row 4 repeat and a row 5 repeat right over that. At the end of row 5, you're going to change color back to your accent color, and you're going to work a row of half double crochet. Okay, so I finished my row 5 repeat. So like I said, you wanted to change color in the very last stitch, chain up 2, and then you're going to half double crochet across the row. We are doing a repeat of these rows. So we're going to do half double crochet row, row 3 repeat, half double crochet row, rows 3, 4, and 5. We're going to do the exact same thing over again. So after this row 3 repeat, another half double crochet row 3 repeat, row 4 repeat, and row 5 repeat. So just the same exact thing that we did in the last few rows. So the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. What we did in the last 6 rows here, you're going to repeat these same 6 rows again. All right, so I went ahead and finished up my back panel. I did my row 3, 4, and 5 and finish it off with 2 rows of half double crochet. So once you do the half double crochet, you just want to fasten off and weave in all of your ends. As you can see, I did that part already. And once you do that, you are completely done with your back panel. So we're ready to move on to the front panels. Now the front panels are pretty much exactly the same as the back panel, but just not as wide. So I'll come and show you my front panel and how we're going to do that. Okay, so I went ahead and finished up one of my front panels here. As you can see, it looks nearly exactly the same as the back panel, just not as wide. So for the front panel, you do the exact same. You repeat rows 1 through 14. They are exactly the same as the back panel. You do a row 3 repeat, and then you work 4 and 5 consecutively until you reach your desired size. For me, after the row 3, I did work row 4 and 5 for 7 rows to get to the 50-inch bust. But just reference the written pattern and that'll tell you the exact amount of rows that you need to do for your size. So again, just rewind, repeat rows 1 through 14. You do a row 3 repeat and then do rows 4 and 5 consecutively until you reach the row for your desired size. So you want to make 2 of these, and once you do that and weave in all of your ends, we'll be ready for assembly. All right, we are back and it's time for assembly. At this point, you should have your back panel and your 2 front panels done. All ends are weaved in, so that way we're good to put everything together. So, very important with assembly, very first thing when you're laying it out, you want to be sure the right sides are facing each other. So the right sides of each panel, make sure they're facing each other so that way your seam is on the inside. When you turn it inside out, it's on the inside. All right, so once you have everything laid out, you can choose to either slip stitch everything together, or if you choose to use a needle, you can whip stitch everything together. Today I'm going to slip stitch, and you want to be sure that you are using your main color to stitch it together because your accent color will just stand out and you don't want that. All right, so when you lay everything out, you want to be sure the half double crochet rows are lining up on each side, including the other side with the other panel. And when I slip stitch everything together, I like to size down a hook. So I'm going to be using a G or a 4.0 millimeter hook, but it's totally up to you. This is a personal preference. So I'm just going to find an area, and it's really whatever works for you. And then I'm going to just kind of attach my yarn here. And you attach however you like to attach. And then I'm just going to slip stitch across. Now you just kind of go in and find a space. Doesn't really matter where, just find a good space. I like to try to go between the chains to be sure that at least 2 chains are on top of the hook. I feel like that gives me a more secure attachment to each other. All right, so I'm going to do this all the way across the shoulder part, and then I'll show you what to do for the sides. All right, so I just wanted to show you guys what I do personally when I'm slip stitching across the top shoulder part. I will stop at the very end once the main color stops and cut this off, weave it in, and switch over to the accent color to weave in the rest of the row just so it matches and it doesn't stand out. That is a very personal preference, totally up to you, but it does, in my opinion, give it a better look because the yarn matches. So I'm going to do that really quick and then we're going to work on the sides. All right, so I went ahead and finished my shoulder seam, and now it's time to seam the sides. You do want to keep in mind that you need an armhole, and I'll show you how to measure for that. So for my size, I do need an armhole depth of 10.5 inches. So you just want to take your measuring tape and just start from the top down, 10.5 inches. You want to find the corresponding stitch and just kind of go in and mark it. You can use a stitch marker. I'm just going to use a scrap piece of yarn that I had laying around, and I'm going to mark that off. So that lets me know that this is going to be my armhole, and you would need to slip stitch or whip stitch all the way down to the bottom. If you want to leave a slit at the bottom, that's totally up to you, but you just want to start here and seam all the way down just so your panel is fully attached. You want to do that on both sides. So I'm going to finish mine up and then we're going to move on to the sleeves and the neckline. All right, so at this point, we've done all the seaming across the shoulders, down the sides, and we now have armholes. And now it's time to do the edging. And for the edging, we are going to use our accent color. And you want to keep your work inside out. So the same way you had it when you were doing your seaming, you want to keep it that exact same way to do the edging as well. So for the edging, I am a lefty. I'm going to attach my yarn to the bottom left panel. For you right-handed people, it may be better for you to attach it to the right panel, but whatever works for you. And basically what we're going to do from here is work our way up this panel, around the neckline, back down the other side of the panel. We're going to go around the bottom as well and meet back here with the slip stitch. Now for the edging, I suggest to try it on just to see how thick of an edging that you want. The pattern only calls for one round, but of course if you want a thicker uh, edging, go for it. Totally up to you, but just do that around and then we can move on to the sleeves and weave in these ends and we're almost done. All right, so I finished up my edging. Now it's time to do the sleeves. Be sure everything is still inside out, so your seams are still facing you. And this is really simple. You're just going to attach the yarn to the bottom portion of the sleeve here. Just going to attach however you attach. And honestly, it doesn't matter how or where you really attach to it. I just find under the arm is the best place just so it's hidden. So you want to attach, chain up 2, and you are going to evenly half double crochet all around the border. So you just want to find a place, go in with a half double crochet, and you want to do that all around your desired number of times. The pattern calls for 4 rounds of half double crochet, but of course if you want to do more, you definitely can. That is totally up to you. I've thought about adding long sleeves to one day. I think that'll be pretty cool. But again, just do this, fasten off, weave in all of your ends, and we are done. I absolutely cannot wait to see all the variations of this cardi. Make sure to tag me on social media at Designs by Key so that way I can see what you guys come up with. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the cool new things I have coming up. Thank you so much for crocheting with me. Until next time.